Hey, this is Barrett with Portakeeper, and one of my comments on YouTube was they were a little bit afraid that this Turin might be a little bit messy. They were wanting me to compare it with the Ross Droplet Technique. And if you're not familiar with it, there's a couple different ways to do it. I used to use this chopstick method where you take a chopstick, and say this is chopstick, and you get it wet and you stir your grounds with it, and just that little bit of moisture makes a big difference. Since then, I've picked up a small spray bottle. Not a big fan of this one. It's a little bit big. They sell these just real small ones, and that's kind of cool. You can have it just handy on your counter, and you don't need much spray at all, and I'll show you a little bit later. I think what I want to do is just do a quick comparison of espresso without water. We're going to do pour over without water, and then we're going to do one more as pour over with a little bit of water sprayed on top of the beans. So I have these Good Brothers Ethiopian. These are the bomb. Make sure to check them out. And I'm going to weigh out, I'm just going to do maybe 10 grams because all we're really looking at is mess. Now let's do 18. Let's just make it like we're doing a shot. This is too late to be drinking a lot of coffee, so. Oh. There we're at 18. We're on espresso. Right now I'm on setting 12. I had it dialed down a little bit for these Guatemalan, also from Good Brothers, that I was using this weekend. Been really enjoying them. And let's just grind it out. When it gets to the end, use the bellow. It's usually that final poof that makes a little bit of a mess on the counter. I'm going to move the camera real quick just to show you. And you can see there's just a little bit on the counter. It's just real small. And, I mean, all grinders do that, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. And I'm just going to dump it. It smells amazing. I hate to dump it. But we're just trying to do a quick comparison here. So, what we're going to do, actually, is change it to setting 65. And it's best if you do it while it's running. When you're going coarser, it's not a big deal, but I like to turn it on a little bit. Make sure there's not any chunks in there, just big chunks. And I'm actually going to set it on setting 65. So, real quick, I want to show you something cool. And as I've been messing with this Turin, on the front, there's a line. It's a little bit hard to see. Hopefully you can see it. A little line right there. And that corresponds with the setting. So, I don't know. I was struggling with it a little bit. So what I ended up doing was making this ring. And you can see it's really easy to follow where the setting is. So, make sure to check back. I don't really have much info on that at the moment, but definitely check back and I'll have a lot more cool stuff about that here soon. So I am going to do 18 grams, same way. Except on setting 65. So with the espresso, it's pretty dang clean, I think. So I showed you guys the other day my less than $1 paintbrush that I like. It cleans things up. Let's try to get this as clean as possible before we grind. And make sure this is pretty empty. And now we're grinding, no moisture, no water, on setting 65. And you can tell it's quite a bit messier. It has a lot of chaff, and it's stuck to the side, and it's all chaff. It's not so much grounds, it's chaff. I mean, it comes right off, but it's a mess. So let's get this cleaned up real quick. And we're going to do it again with the Ross Droplet Technique, RDT. You can Google it. There's a couple different methods. Chopstick, it works pretty good. I don't think it gets quite enough water in, but you really don't want a ton of water because you don't want all that moisture sitting on those burrs, really, or getting down into your bearings. So it doesn't take much. Okay, let's do 18 more. So if we're going to use our trick this time. And this is true for about any grinder. It's much of a better technique for single dosing. Like this Super Jolly, it's pretty messy. But for the most part, the way that I have it set up, it doesn't make that big of a mess for me. But doing something like this would help out a lot. So really what we're doing here, and I'll try to show you, it's like a little tiny spray. We're talking, that's too much. Just a little bit. And let's see. Kind of get your beans wet. And, oh, lost a few. So they're really not wet. I mean, if you look at them, they're completely dry in there. But that little bit of moisture is going to help us a lot. So let's give it one more go. Clean it all up. Move that scale out of the way. Let's just try to make sure it's as clean as possible. And one last time, setting 65 with the RDT method. Coming out a lot less crazy. You were seeing a little bit more chaff coming out before. You still have some on the counter, but they're bigger pieces, and I attribute that mostly to the bellows. So maybe if I wasn't so as aggressive with the bellows, it wouldn't come out as far. But really what I'm looking at here is there's not as much chaff on the side. I have a little bit on these forks, a little bit at the back, and a little bit on the chute. So if I needed to clean this up, I'm going to show you a little bit closer. You can see it's a lot bigger pieces. But if I needed to clean this up, it's going to be much faster. We're going to take a quick look at that. So let's dump these, brood our shot, and end of the day, just give it a little bit of a cleanup. I do this with about all my grinders anyway, even like my Adam 75, definitely the Super Jolly. I have a K30 that I've been using that it's not bad. Most of the grounds actually fall into the grounds tray, so it stays pretty clean. But I mean, that's all that we're getting. We're not getting that much, and most of it, I'd say, a lot of it's chaff. The bigger pieces are grounds. But that's not bad. And we're on a coarse setting. You're probably going to be doing more like 20 to 24 grams if you're doing a V60. AeroPress, I usually run about 20 lately. Depends on the beans. But that would probably be my suggestion, would be to get... I'd try to find a little bit better bottle. I really don't need this that much. This ditting is pretty clean. I had this more when I was using a Baratza. The Baratza is extremely staticky, huge mess. So a lot of my grinders are a little bit cleaner. This one's just a little bit messier, but the big difference is this is made, I'd say, more for espresso as well as drip. And for me, I'm using this for my drip. I really don't use anything else. This is so great. It's not that good for espresso. And then I use a dedicated espresso grinder. So when you're moving it both ways, having a grinder that can not be super messy and also grind really good, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So Again, let me know if you have any more questions about this, and I'll try to address them in a future video. Thanks for watching.